At home on every rural road, Hyundai Country Calendar.
I've got Arapara Island sheep from Wales. I've got Gotlands from Sweden. I've got Damaras from Egypt, Dorpers from South Africa.
He's brought sheep from all over the world to his southern Hawke's Bay farm, and this retired schoolteacher is passing on his passion for rare breeds.
Every kid at some stage has this desire or want to be on a farm, and I don't feel like depriving them of that enjoyment. I'm just heading up the hill to bring the Romney ewe hoggets down. These are my replacement ewe hoggets.
Brian Hales farms at Wimbledon, an hour east of Dannevirke. This is the start of the shearing season for me. This is my commercial Romney flock. This was heavy totara bush country. Just below us there was mills, there was other timber mills up the creek in the 1880s. As the land was milled, it was then burnt and it became very good farmland, and it was issued out as settlement blocks. Come here, Claude! Get over here, bro! I've got Khan here helping me today. He's going to help me shed up. Brian has employed 22-year-old Khan Coleman as casual labour since Khan was a kid. Khan and his younger brother Tal are on crutching duty before the shearers arrive.
We're just getting these hoggets ready for shearing later in the week, so basically just a quick dag, getting all the wool off the tail so that we don't get shed stain when they're penned up, so the shearers can get in there and do their job. My brother Tal here, he's the other one on the handpiece. We've been working here since we were quite young. I think Tal was about 4 when we first started here, and I was about 7. And we'd come out in the school holidays docking and just helping out and getting a taste of the farm life, and we've just been keep on coming back ever since, you know.
But not all the sheep on Brian's farm are the common Romney. In the paddocks around his wool shed, you'll find an extraordinary collection of rare and exotic sheep from all over the world.
I think I've got 14 different breeds. There's the Damara. They're from Egypt. They're the sheep of the desert, and they are farmed by nomadic types. Now, I'm trying to maintain that instinct in them. That's why I feed them on a regular basis, to maintain that daily contact. One of the other breeds of sheep that are here are the Dorpers, which is a South African breed. They were bred to follow the merinos around the South African environment to clean up the rough pasture. They are good foraging sheep, and they grow particularly big. But if you cross the Damara with the Dorper, you now get the very, very popular meat breed of sheep, and it's called a meat master. And it is big business in Australia at the moment. It has the Wagyu meat factor, which puts marbling through the meat, and it is absolutely beautiful to eat. For me, the goals in getting these exotic sheep are to get them to as a pure breed as I can possibly get, and to maintain their instincts and their way of life.
In a few days, Brian's hosting his annual Woolshed Open Day. It's a showcase of all his exotic breeds.
The shearing day started off where we just shore our exotics to produce an exotic fibre. We're going to be shearing 5 different breeds that have totally different fibres. The shearing day is expanded into using the meats from the exotic sheep as well, and we will cook those in traditional ways.
It's a chance to bring some crowds back to the tiny settlement of Wimbledon.
Wimbledon was based on milling. 1886, it was a hive of activity, and the little village had its hotel where the people from in the bush would go and spend all their money. There was a baker, farriers, there was a general store. Wimbledon, the town in England, at that time was not known for tennis, because they weren't even playing tennis there then, but it was a rifle range. 2 surveyors were surveying in the creek, and a guy shot 2 ducks with 1 shot. And his mate said, "That's a good shot. You wouldn't see a shot like that at Wimbledon." And so they named the place Wimbledon.
Wimbledon School at the entrance to the Hales farm has been closed for 10 years. Brian's mother taught here, and when he left school, Brian also trained as a teacher.
Then I did my teaching in Dannevirke. I taught for 7 years initially. Then I came back to help on the family farm. Then a few years later, I was principal of a few local schools, but I was doing that and farming at the same time. And that brought the best out of me. I really worked hard.
And although he's no longer teaching, Brian maintains strong ties with the local school at Weber, a few kilometres up the road.
There it is.
At Brian Hale's farm in Wimbledon in southern Hawke's Bay, the local shearing gang's underway with the ewe hoggets.
You can see here the wool is quite short, good colour, but it's showing we obviously had no autumn this year, so there was no autumn growth, so there was no chance for the sheep to grow a good clip of wool for the winter. The clip volume will be down probably 25% on other years, and it's only because of the weather.
The wool shed was built in the late 1800s out of totara from the surrounding forest, milled on site. But there are blocks of bush on the Hales farm that won't ever be felled. Carn's Bush, named for local lad Carn Coleman, is home to a rare creature.
We'd heard about it ever since we started working for Brian, really. He'd tell us stories of this creature that he'd last heard of it being seen around here 40 years before. So it was always built up as this thing that was awesome and that was in this area. So we always wanted to find it, really. Should be something in there. Yeah, it's sort of, as good a place as any, really. Yeah. Puripodus is special because it has a lot of unique traits, and one is that it has no relatives in the animal kingdom, and it's basically it's in its own class, and it's known as the missing link between arthropods and worms, arthropods being insects, spiders and such like, and segmented worms, because it is basically a worm but it has feet on each segment of his body. It's a really amazing creature. So it started with my school project. As I was 12 years old, I decided to do a project on whether or not it would be viable to reserve this piece of bush. And obviously we knew that there could be Puripodus in this area, so that was a big deciding factor. If we could find one of those, we knew it would be quite an edge to the project. We have signs of other insect life in here though, so we seem to be on the right track. On the very last day of research before the project was due, Brian and I were out here just searching around, and it was late on Sunday, sort of about 5 o'clock in the evening, and we just scratching around in the logs, and what do you know, we found him. This is what we look for. This is our telltale Puripodus trail.
Within days of Carn handing in his project, there were scientists turning up in Wimbledon wanting to know where they could see the Puripodus.
Then I found out that I was the joint winner of the primary school Young Conservationist of the Year. Here's one. Here's one. We're on. Hey, buddy. That's a very nice Puripodus. So he originates from the times of Gondwana land. So you can see this one, he's sort of a dark purpley, very dark, with orange spots. And they range in colours and sizes, and you get ones that are more purpley and ones that are actually more reddy. Yeah, this is a really, really good example.
The bush is now protected, and every fence post has a name.
When the bush was reserved off, Weaver School came out and we all chose a post and named it, laid it out where we wanted to put it, and then they put them in where we wanted, and me and a few mates, this was our spot along here that we chose.
That connection with Weaver School has continued over the years.
do you think their perimeters would be?
This week, Brian has the senior class of Year 7 and 8 pupils visiting for a school camp.
That's quite a small one. Now, the exciting thing about that to me is that I have not put a perimeter that small in there. So what is that telling you?
Breeding.
They're breeding. Yahoo! Isn't that good?
While Carnes Bush is now protected, Brian has several blocks of land dedicated to forestry.
We've got a 90-acre block here. It was planted in the mid-70s to prevent erosion. This block was logged year 2000. The second crop will be ready at about year 2026. The good thing about this second crop is that I spent $50,000 on putting a road in here to log the first crop. But now these roads are in, and the skid sites are in, and the fencing is done. So the second crop will be able to benefit from that.
The pines will be logged by contractors, but over the years, Brian has logged and milled plenty of old macrocarpus from the area with his own mill.
I really enjoy cutting macrocarpa logs. It's so good to take old logs like this here that's been an old macrocarpa tree, looks full of knots, it's done its time, and turning it into something as beautiful as this here. I've cut houses, I've cut paling fences, I've cut sheds, all sorts of things, and it is just awesome driving around town or anywhere, seeing something and saying, I cut that, I cut that. There's one street in Dannyburg I can drive down and say, cut that fence, cut that fence, cut that shed, cut that fence, and it's so cool. I've cut some really flash houses that I'm proud of, but I've done some very ordinary basic furniture that I'm also very proud of as well. The ultimate is to get the highest percentage out of a log that you can possibly get. This log here has been supreme so far. If I can get about an 85% yield, I'll be really happy with this, and I'll go close to it on this. But you never know with macrocarpa. You like to get in the middle, find it completely rotten, or find it's shattered, split up the centre, or anything like that. It's just one of those things, you just never know. You just take your chance.
At Brian Hale's southern Hawke's Bay farm, kids from the local Weber school are in the middle of a lesson.
Well, we're just weeding these trees, or the surroundings of these trees, so that we can get them weed free and make sure that there's no creeper that'll be climbing up there, and so that we can keep them healthy. It's lots of fun.
Molly and her classmates planted these trees about 6 years ago and return regularly to care for them. Brian's wetland has been a place of learning for more than a century.
All kids that went to the Wimbledon School always came here to do their nature study learning. My grandfather came here in the 1890s. Every old person that I talked to came to this spot. Unfortunately, it turned into a dry land. Willows took over, all sorts of weeds completely dried the area out, and it became a rubbish dump, and people were tossing rubbish in here, and it was disgusting. And I was quite ashamed of it, to think that what had gone on in the past had suddenly been destroyed. So we set about restoring this area.
I haven't seen very many frogs here before, so it's a bit of a surprise for everyone.
It's good to have a frog in the wetland because it means that there's more life and it's reproducing. So
You can see its heartbeat in there.
yeah, so it's very exciting.
Oh my gosh, I hope it doesn't jump out.
Water is an awesome concept for children to deal with. They can see it, they can touch it, and they can assess its value by the quality of life that lives here.
Look at it.
I remember standing out here with Brian years ago, and he said, we're going to turn this into a wetland. And I thought he was a little bit off his rocker.
Teacher Sarah Waller says Brian's input to the kids' learning is invaluable.
We're going to have a look at this leach, okay?
He's brought it back to what it was. And then from there, the school was involved with planting, releasing eels and checking the wildlife.
Mr. Howes has been teaching us a lot about the wetland, and he's also been teaching us about the sheep. It's a lot better than learning in the classroom, as it's sort of outdoors and you're away from books. It's a lot more interesting.
Okay. Has it hurt? No, it won't hurt. It'll
I can't imagine running my classroom without Brian, actually. Whether it's him calling into school and bringing something exciting to tell us, or a new sheep that he's picked up and on the way home with, or whether we come down here and are involved with what he's doing here. It's a big part of why he does what he does, so that the children are learning and are active. And coming from a teaching background himself, he's definitely got that passion for children and learning, and being outdoors and sharing it with them is paramount to him.
Along with his sheep, Brian runs a herd of about 50 cattle in Wimbledon. Today he's bringing some cows and calves down to the yards. Khan and his girlfriend Laura are on hand to help. It's an easy track, and the cows are used to the routine.
Drafted the small lot of cows off from the calves. In a few days' time, we'll put the cows to the bull.
No, they're right. I'll get both those in there.
I'm sure that's not the bull. Yeah, bull. It's purely just simple castration at this stage and an earmark. The whole Coleman family have worked for me over probably the last 15 years. Khan and Tao and Laura, Darren and Karen, his parents, and they have made a massive contribution to this property and to me, to my thinking.
Brian plans to show off the farm's exotic sheep at his big woolshed open day, but you can't shear wet sheep.
We've shedded up last night. The sheep were very wet. We've left them in the shed. It's rained all morning.
Get over.
So we've just let them out for a quick feed. We've had about an hour of clear weather, but we've had to put them in. They're going to get wet, but we will definitely have dry sheep for tomorrow, so that's the main thing.
Despite the rain, Brian expects plenty will come to see what's on display.
I'll definitely lose numbers because of the weather. I don't rely on the day to do any funding for me. There's no charge, it's a free day, so if the crowd's 1,000 or 200, it makes no difference. But the good thing is I'll have a heap of enthusiasts and I'll really enjoy the day with them.
Although it's a shearing day, it's not just about wool. Several of the sheep breeds are known for their meat, and Brian has family friend and Khan's uncle, Tony Coleman, preparing the cuts.
I'm butcher by trade, and I'm fascinated with all the different flavours they're bringing to us. This is the Meat Master. Point of difference is the flavour. These different breeds seem to have different tastes. So, your normal old lamb from the supermarket, these ones are a bit different, like different types of wine.
With all the preparations done, Brian and Tony fire up the barbecue to feed all his helpers before the big day tomorrow.
I come down out of respect for Brian because what he does for the community, I just haven't met anyone that gives so much.
More? Good morning, people. I'd like to welcome you to our exotic sheep shearing day here today. Right, I think we'd better get into action. The boys are ready to start shearing.
Hawke's Bay local Richard Welch is one of the shearers Brian's roped in for the day. The impressive horns on his Arapawa ram add an extra challenge. Neil Weggery is showing how things used to be done by blade shearing a caracal sheep, one of the oldest breeds known to man.
They're from Kazakhstan. The wool was used, their clothing, their housing, footwear, bags, shoes, all sorts of things. Here we're trying to educate people with the uses of it.
Out in the yards, Brian has plenty of help to keep things running smoothly.
So when they're shearing Arapawas now, when they're shorn, we bring them around.
There are showcases of fibre.
Wow, that is the Alfa Romeo of business.
And of food. And despite the weather, the crowds continue to arrive.
This is Camembert, yeah.
There's the small hobby farmer who wants something in his paddock that's not an ordinary old sheep. There's the craft people who want to spin, want to knit. There's those who are looking for that rare, unusual fibre that they can use. The day has achieved its goals for me to expose all the talents and attributes of these breeds that I've got here today has added so much value to those sheep.
Once the crowds have gone, Brian can slow down and take a rest. But only for a minute or two. He's full of plans for the future.
There's always a challenge, there's always something to do. And I don't get sick of anything that I do. You know, the challenge has been milling, the challenge is the exotics, trying to make the exotics something.
Sit. Get over.
The commercial flock, I've been doing that for 50-odd years now, and the novelty hasn't worn off there either. You know, there's still the challenge there to perfect that right to the very top.
Get over, Breeze. Get over.
I do think about retiring, I suppose, and that's probably the only thing I don't want to do on the farm. No, I'm going to be here for a while yet.